Minecraft. An open-world sandbox game where any idea within the game's current limits can be attained. Marketed to the whole family, easy to pick up, fun, and that's it. Right? Well, that's basically what it was designed to be. But let something boil and stew on the internet too long, and the unquenchable, eternal boredom of internet inhabitants will start a spiral of storytelling. You see, there's a whole community dedicated to theorizing about the history, the lore, the reasons Minecraft is the way that it is. These are topics covered by many, including the big dogs. I recently took a deep dive into these ideas and started to piece together holes in these stories, things that didn't really make sense, and thus, today we are going back to the oldest mystery in all of Minecraft. Steve. Who is he? Why is he more powerful than anything else in the game? Where does his intelligence even come from? How on earth can he escape death by infinitely respawning? Who is Minecraft's Steve? Our story begins with Minecraft's naturally generated structures. We know how some of them are inhabited by various mobs like ocean monuments, end cities, villages, woodland mansions. But what do we know about the ones that are seemingly abandoned with no sign of life at all? Desert temples, strongholds, shipwrecks, mine shafts, the list goes on. Now, there's a widely accepted theory explaining the existence of an ancient race of Minecraft beings called the Builders. The Builders ruled the world before all other things and had similar power and intelligence the player has today. They were able to craft, terraform, and build great structures Steve style. They lived peacefully alongside villagers, a much less intelligent species that lived together in colonies. The Builders traded with the villagers and formed a great relationship with them. In one of Matpat's old videos covering this exact topic, something happens to the Builders. An extinction event that drives them to the end, where they are trapped forever, bound by the Ender Dragon. Eventually, they evolved into what are now Endermen. This makes further sense when you think about how Endermen get hostile toward the dragon during the final boss fight of the game. If you haven't already and you want to get the full story of this, please check out Matpat's video. It will give a lot of context to what we're going to talk about further. So, what was the reason for this mass exodus to the end? If we imagine the Builders are a species as intelligent as the present-day player, it has to be something incredibly powerful. Something they had never seen before and didn't know how to deal with. This something is the key to unraveling this entire mystery, the missing piece of the puzzle. This something is the Wither. The story goes that the creation of the Wither gave the Builders no choice but to run. They fled to the end for safety but ended up trapped there forever. Matpat explains that Steve is the last remaining Builder on the overworld, defeats the Wither and becomes the present-day player. There is one clear hole to this though. In another Steve theory video, this one by Wifies, he brings up the best counterpoint to this idea. If the Builders truly were on the same playing field as Steve, why did they run? Why did all of them run? Why was there only one brave enough to stay? More importantly though, where the fuck did the Wither come from? If we stay on Wifey's video, he theorized that it was Steve who created the Wither. Steve was a builder who created this experiment that went too far. The Wither was born, and Steve is responsible for the extinction of his own species. But hear me out. What if the Builders had nothing to do with the Wither at all? What if I told you there was not one species existing in the ancient Minecraft world, but 3? And one was even more powerful than the Builders, more intelligent, hostile, with one goal in mind: conquering the world and seeking revenge on those who got in their way. Along with the Wither, this is the other key to unraveling the mystery of Steve once and for all. Illagers. Okay, but Ryan, Illagers are weak. Just slap on some diamond armor and whack them out of existence. Ravagers are easy to avoid, pillagers are dumb and often just get themselves stuck in the stupidest places. Even evokers with their vexes are easy given enough gear and strategy. Yes, I know. We'll get to why that is, don't worry. Our story continues with the history of the Illager. Now, it's clear that in some way Illagers and villagers are related. I mean, it's in the name, plus they are essentially just retextured villager clones. But where did they originate? Why are they so intent on destroying villages and attacking the player? Matpat has a good explanation that I mostly agree with. Illagers used to be intelligent villagers that experimented with life and death. I mean, they created the Totem of Undying, an item responsible for escaping death entirely. They banded together and, being hungry with their power and knowledge, they committed blasphemy against the village. They were banished from villages altogether. They built woodland mansions to carry out their experiments and acts. Kidnapping villagers and turning them into animals, evokers practicing evil magic, creating hostile Minecraft mobs, you get the idea. Again, I highly recommend watching that video in full as well, but that's a very, very quick summary of the Illagers. My only critique of Matpat's ideas in this theory video lies where he explains Ravagers are kidnapped villagers. The evidence presented is the uncanny resemblance between Ravager heads and villager heads, mostly lying in the eyebrows being identical and also their audio being similar. There's also a tweet from Jeb, but it doesn't really give away anything. This evidence seems loose at best, and I think there may be a better explanation to their existence. This might tie everything together. First, let's go back to their exile from villages. Obviously, it's not too far-fetched to think the reasoning for raids and pillagers roaming the world are due to their undying need for revenge against villagers. And these raids are no easy task with one of the most powerful mobs in the game protecting the villages. This, of course, being the Iron Golem. Villagers needed a formidable opponent to defeat the village protectors. A large, powerful beast of their own. If we agree that Illagers are counterparts to villagers, it makes sense that Ravagers might be the direct counterparts to Iron Golems. We know Iron Golems can be created by the player using blocks, so what if we use that logic and theorize that Ravagers can as well? I mean, they probably already knew how to create Iron Golems with blocks before they were exiled, and using that same logic created a darker version of them using some sort of crazy evoker magic. But Ryan, if Steve possesses the ability to create Iron Golems, why can't he also create Ravagers out of blocks? I have a possible answer to that, but we need more details to our story first. I mentioned earlier that the ancient builders coexisted with villagers and Illagers. Since they are thought to be peaceful co-inhabitants with villagers, naturally the Illagers were driven to dislike the builders as well. The Illagers clearly have this strong desire for power and domination and will do anything to get what they want. What if, instead of capturing villagers, a less intelligent species, they set their sight on the builders? Since the builders possess this power to modify the world, it's easy to see why that would be attractive to the Illagers' quest. Something that could back this up is the fact that woodland mansions are full of weird replicas of structures, like beds made from carpet and wool, fake maps, and non-functional end portals also recreated from wool. These could be remnants of the Illagers attempting to modify their surroundings, learning from the abilities of their newly enslaved builders. Now, you may be thinking, if the builders are as powerful and as smart as we think they are, how in the world did they ever get captured by the Illagers? Maybe brute force using an army of Ravagers and Vexes? Magical conversion by evokers? Or if we run with the idea that they are the most intelligent beings at the time, they probably had hideouts and encampments that avoided capture. Not all of them were kidnapped. Or maybe they just weren't as intelligent as we give them credit to be. As for where they were kept, there are literal jail cells in the woodland mansions. What if the builders occupied these cells and not villagers? What if Steve was one of these captured builders? Okay, pause. That is a lot of information thrown at you, so let's quickly put together the pieces we've created so far. So, the ancient builders existed alongside villagers and illagers. The ancient builders were driven to the end by the Wither. The ancient builders evolved into Endermen after being trapped by the Ender Dragon. Illagers were exiled by villagers and spent all their time experimenting and seeking revenge on the villagers. Driven by the lust for power and revenge, Illagers enslaved the race of ancient builders to assist them with further experiments. One of these captured builders happened to be the Steve we know and love today. So now let's tie this all together into one cohesive story. To start, let's go back to the creation of the Wither and how that fits into Wifies' video. This is where his video comes up really short in my opinion. As I said, he theorized that Steve created the Wither, and it drove the builders to the end. Steve tried to flee to the end with them, but the portal had closed and Steve jumped and died in the lava. Then, the Minecraft gods bring Steve back to life and give him the power to respawn with the goal to free his trapped ancestors by defeating the Ender Dragon, all in the name of repenting for his sins. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't incredibly disappointed with this conclusion. We had such a great build-up that actually makes a ton of sense and fills a lot of gaps, but to all of a sudden come out at the first sign of a holdup in the story and say, well, must have been the Minecraft gods, it feels like a cop-out. We could throw away all the lore stories that exist so far and say, well, it must have been the Minecraft gods. The Minecraft gods got bored and created the Illagers. The Minecraft gods created Steve. No. Let's assume everything is true up to the point of Steve creating the first Wither and go back to the Illagers. You see, we know the Illagers' quest for domination was unsuccessful, otherwise there wouldn't be villages in Minecraft today. The resistance put up by the uncaptured builders and the defense of the villages was holding them back consistently. They needed something better. Something so powerful it would wipe out the builders and villages forever. If we believe the Ravagers were created by blocks, they must have began experimenting with the nether materials at some point. Realizing they could harness the power of Wither skeletons, they put together the famous statue and to their delight, it came to life. And well, the Wither did its Wither thing and the Illagers quickly realized this was way too much for them to handle. The Wither destroyed their mansion and sent all the builders free. The enslaved builders, along with the ones in encampments who were never captured, escaped to the end and became the Endermen as we discussed earlier. Some of the Illagers escaped as well, and began rebuilding elsewhere when things calmed down. So, what about Steve? There is a third and final key to our story. The Illagers realized their quest could be much easier if they created something that could escape death. However, as with all their crazy magic and unspeakable acts, it required testing. Today, you can throw a totem at a zombie and it will actually function and give the zombie another life. I think this could possibly mean the Illagers tested it out on zombies first. They realized it actually works. But, as with everything up to this point, they were not satisfied. They wanted to take it further. What if, using evoker magic, they could permanently infuse the Totem of Undying to a living being? And screw dumb, weak zombies, why not try it on a builder? If they could create an invincible builder, they knew they'd be unstoppable. So they went to their jail cell and grabbed someone. That someone was Steve. They strapped Steve down and the evokers began their magic ritual. And it worked. They killed Steve over and over and over again and he kept coming back. They believed Steve, along with the Wither, would mean their victory over the villagers. Well, we know now what happened with the Wither. When the Wither began raining destruction down on the mansion, Steve knew he would be fine. He did everything he could to defeat the Wither and save his fellow builders that have escaped, but to no avail. He kept dying and respawning and dying and respawning, and the builders made it to the end, trapped forever, as we know. Steve realized his lack of pure power at this point and finally ran away. He returned home to the wilderness, using his prior knowledge to learn new skills and craft new items. He slowly learned how to make more powerful armor and weapons, and armed with his new abilities, he returned to the Wither, determined to bring the balance of the world back. After all this time and all this prep, he finally ended up defeating it, and peace was brought back to the overworld. This brings us to our present-day timeline. The Wither is no longer dominating the overworld, and this is where all the current theories overlap and all fit together. If we assume the end is full of trapped builder souls who became Endermen, which is why beating Minecraft's final boss nets you the achievement Free the End, this makes perfect sense. After the Wither was defeated, Steve sets out to free his ancestors from being eternally trapped by the dragon in the End dimension. Remember our reservations about Illagers being weak and semi-easy to kill in present-day Minecraft? This is because of Steve's training to defeat the Wither. When he learned to defeat the most powerful being ever created, everything seemed easy in comparison from that point forward. We, as players, are able to respawn in survival Minecraft due to the permanent infusion of the Totem of Undying to Steve by the Illagers. Now, this of course assumes that survival mode is canon to the lore. It is the main mode of Minecraft, so it kinda makes sense to think of it this way. Hardcore and creative mode can be seen as kind of side games, or I like to envision them as parallel timelines where our story diverts. Like maybe in Hardcore, the Illagers didn't infuse the totem to Steve before creating the Wither, so he truly only has one life. Maybe the story of creative mode is that the ancient builders were actually gods. Those could be separate videos entirely though. Oh yeah, and why can't Steve spawn a Ravager using blocks? Well, because the Minecraft gods disallowed it. Just kidding. This was a tough hole in my theory to work through, but the best I can come up with is the Ravagers are a creation using Invoker magic. We as players have no way in vanilla Minecraft, that is, to harness the same magic to create Vexes or Ravagers. Thus, Steve cannot enchant and animate the blocks required to become a living Ravager. Beings like Iron Golems, Snow Golems, and the Wither are natural magical beings made from statues of specific blocks. It's not the best, I know, but it's the best I could think of. So, there you have it. Steve is truly Minecraft's icon and treasure, and many have tried to understand where he came from. This is my take on that lore, putting missing pieces of the puzzle together and generating a story from it. But, as always, those are my thoughts, not yours. Let me know what you think in the comments below. If you enjoyed this documentary and want to see more videos like it, let me know by leaving a like on the video. Subscribe if you're brand new around here and make yourself at home, please. You're all beautiful humans to me. Thank you so much for watching.